little bit about liberalism and conservatism. Now, before you jump on the bandwagon of, Republican and Democrat, I want to real quick make it real clear that liberalism and conservatism on the world scale is way different than what we think about in the United States, that separates how you feel if you're a Republican versus how you feel as a Democrat. And so let's get kicking. When we talk about conservatism, we almost always are talking about conserving power, tradition, things that have always been, back in the Enlightenment periods, conservatives would have been the ones who are all about absolutes. They would have accepted the science and understanding of Aristotle and the church, and anything that put into question the legitimacy or the correctness of those things would be absolute blasphemy. I mean, if you're going to question the church, who's going to stop you from questioning the king, for example? So even aristocrats and kings were all about old tradition conservatism. And so when you think about what conservatism is, you think about things in terms of systems of government like monarchy, theocracy, things that are a system of government, dictatorship, like North Korea, for example. You don't question leadership, you don't question tradition or anything that has not been questioned before. You just keep going to flow. The reason why conservatism has to do with power and tradition is because to question the tradition is to question the power. Any social changes that happen in a conservative government is going to be social change that is taken, the power is taken from those who have it and given to everyone else in an effort to make things more free. Liberalism, on the other end of the spectrum, is having to do with freedoms, individual freedoms, and fairness. All right, and so when you think about it in terms of social equality, liberals are going to be those who might be minority ethnicities, things that people in our country, for example, who are looking for equality with the white majority, equality of religion, equality of expression, like homosexuals might say, hey, I think that I should be able to love whoever I want. And when you think about a white, traditional, conservative majority, they might say, no, you can't. Marriage is defined by what? The Bible, which you don't question. So just a little bit of an inkling about what conservatism and liberalism is when it comes to social issues. Also, on that same, looking at that same formula, liberals tend to want to promote fairness, but you can't promote fairness without the government intervening in what people are able to do with the economy. All right, so right now we've got a presidential election coming up. You got rich Donald Trump on the conservative side, and you got Bernie Sanders, the socialist, right? So what is it he's trying to do? We like the idea of being able, of the American dream, right? Many people, when we think about the American dream, we think about it as being something that everyone has the opportunity, the same opportunity for. But we've already discussed in our race, ethnicity, gender, and identity section that, in fact, not everyone has equal access to the American dream. If you're born into an impoverished minority family, you are infinitely less likely to be as successful as Donald Trump, who is probably born into a rich family with really good education and a foundation based on generations of success. All right, so the difference here leads there to be maybe you can look at the payment gap or the wealth gap in the United States. The top 5% of people in the country in terms of wealth own like 40 or 50% of the economy in terms of the money that's being moved around. That's the problem, especially whenever you think that the middle class makes up the largest group of people, the group that you want, the group that is the defining factor of success in the American dream. But if you've got so many people controlling such a small amount of people controlling such a large amount of the wealth, then there's not a whole lot of upward mobility for the middle class, and you start to run into an issue where you have a growing group of people that don't make a comfortable amount of money. And it's hard to get them out of that situation because you do it best through education and reforms. So if you are in a capitalist economy that a few people have the ability to control so much wealth, and you don't have huge amount of taxes on those people and they can afford to pay it, it's kind of like the Bernie Sanders mentality, then those people are robbing others of equality through the American dream. In other words, if you're too poor to enjoy the American dream, then what's the point? So by taxing rich people more and everyone else a little bit less, you kind of narrow this gap of income inequality in the United States. From a social standpoint, liberals are all about individual expression and freedoms. If you want to smoke weed, that should be something that you are able to do as long as you're not endangering others. In the same way, just drink alcohol. If you want to marry someone of the same sex, that should be okay. If you are Muslim, you shouldn't live in fear because people think that you're a terrorist. These are things that are going to make a lot of young people tend to have a lot of feelings towards liberalism because they're very open to new ideas, such as all these things, and also because they tend to be pretty poor. I mean, when I was in college, I was pretty poor. Even now, I'm not super rich, but when you start to get a little bit of wealth, now you don't want the government taking it from you. So why do you have to involve the government? Well, because people aren't going to give up their money and their hard-earned wealth on their own. So the conservative side here is that you've worked so hard for generations, you shouldn't be punished by paying more taxes and having to support people that won't help themselves. All right, so welfare programs and things that are designed to help people are actually a leech on society, because if those people didn't have those safeguards and those scapegoats, then they would actually get off their lazy bums and go get jobs. So again, there's no right and wrong when it comes to liberal and conservative. It's just two different ways of looking at the same thing. Some of your most conservative forms of government on an international global scale is monarchy, theocracy, and dictatorship, fascism, things like that. They're built by nationalism. In other words, if you're nationalistic, then typically one ethnicity predominates within your country, like you would have seen with the Nazis. They thought they were better than other minority races. And on the opposite end, for the liberal side of the spectrum, you have systems like communism, where there is no income gap, no income inequality. The governments are strict enough to promote equality because you're a part of the proletariat, baby. You're one of the working class. There is no white, black, Hispanic, or someone of elevated status. Everyone's in the same boat in a communist government. Now, to finish up, one thing that I want everyone to know is if you're watching this video, chances are pretty high that you are a liberal. Yep, I just now said, Fowler, we're conservatives, man. We vote for Republicans. Well, guess what? Democracy, Republican democracy, like we have in the United States, is actually a liberal form of government. Now, if you're looking at a world political spectrum, you've got conservative, monarchy, dictatorship on the right, and communism and things like that on the left. But in the center, you've got a group of people that feel strongly about individual freedoms and expression, the right to have a say in government, okay? That right there automatically makes you liberal. So when we think about the West and countries that are some of your most developed, westernized countries, the things that make them such is their constitutions, their individual involvement in government, the ability to vote for the leaders and to have an impact on the direction your government goes. That makes you a liberal, whether you're a Democrat or Republican. I hope you guys learned a lot from this video. I hope it was insightful. If you like it, subscribe, like. I'm going to be putting some more videos up, so let's get the ball rolling. Thank you very much. Leave your thoughts in the comments.